Welcome to Conscious Eye, living in authentic connection and harmony with self, others, and the world, featuring Ravi and Savitri.
Satnam this evening,
Namaste.
Savitri. Um,
Yeah. So, anyway, what are we talking about tonight? It seems like we're getting into some interesting territory.
yeah, and so what we're starting our four-part series on
Hmm.
resilience is a sacred evolution, which
Yeah,
I'm really excited
me
about.
too.
Yeah, and just for our listeners, we'll be doing a four-part series on this theme of resilience as a sacred evolution. Uh, and we'll each be kind of taking an episode, taking and we'll alternate. So I think just we all know that there are benefits to building resilience in our lives. I think that's not, and I think there's. It's kind of like we mentioned a lot. It's got both ends of the spectrum, but it spans all areas of our life. I was thinking about in Grit, The Power of Passion and Perseverance by Angela Duckworth. Have you read that?
No, I have not.
Yeah. So that's a book that I used with my students as a success coach a lot. She
Hmm.
argues that grit or resilience, otherwise known as
Yeah, yeah.
resilience, is a better predictor of success than talent or IQ, but also argues that it's something that we cultivate through deliberate practice. So
Hmm.
something, it's kind of like one of those, yeah, duh, but it's one of those muscles that sometimes we forget that we can build. Um, and it helps us resilience, I think, navigate our emotions, regulate our emotions. Another practice we used and I'm sure you have as a coach,
Hmm.
the practice the pause.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's that space between stimulus and response. And
Hmm.
it was Viktor Frankl. I like that quote: between stimulus and response, there is space. And that space is our power to choose our response. And our
And breathe.
response lies our growth and our breath, the way we move and how we treat our physical bodies. What? Oh, and in our response lies our growth and our freedom. What did you say? What did you throw in
And
there?
breathe. And breathe.
Oh, it's so fun. Oh my gosh, it's so funny you said that because I did jump, my eyes jumped right to my notes on breathing. So, because our physical wellness is anchored in our, ability to be resilient in our connection with our breath, um, and our how we move and treat our physical bodies. I think so. I think
Yeah.
we'll be exploring that in this whole series, this concept of resilience.
And we
Um,
have different topics along the way. So um, hang with us because we'll be interested to hear you get involved. And we now have a community uh, section of our YouTube channel where you can pop into that. If you get in and look around, you can pop into it. And if you have subscribed, you are part of the community, meaning that we can have dialogue with each other in this space, a lot like you would in Facebook for comments, but it gives you the opportunity to have that already defined area in the YouTube channel for that particular video, whatever it might be. So do a little exploring there when you're out there next, and let us know if you're able to find it. If not, I'll help you through it. To digress for a moment, but it it's a way to bring a voice of hope and reason and reimagining in the times that we are in chaos. And resilience is really important.
I
It's
think
one
that's
of those key things that gives us puts our feet on the path so we can stand up and walk. It's our strength, it's our courage, it's our agency. Yeah.
yeah. Hope was a big standout word for me,
Was
and
it?
Yes, because I think so. What there we talk about a lot the duality of things, right? So I think there's a duality to resilience. There's kind of the unhealthy expression and the healthier expression, on the spectrum, because there can be that suppression of trauma or enduring toxic people or environments that that we can attribute, like pull yourself up by your bootstraps,
Hmm.
blaming individuals for systemic issues, I think, is one end of that spectrum. And then on the other end, you have just adaptive coping, emotional flexibility, and making intentional choices,
Hmm.
making meaningful connections, and also making meaning just in your life. So, as with all things, it can be on either end of the spectrum and it can be in the middle, it can be anywhere in between. So, how do we, and I think what we'll explore in some of our topics is how do you know where you are on that scale and when you cross the line over into that kind of more unhealthy expression of resilience? Because it isn't all hustle and grind and put on a bold face or mask through problems. It's really about softening into those hard moments and into those emotions and allowing them to move through us, so that we
Right.
can adapt and be flexible and move through the emotion and come out into another, and again create that meaning, at least take something meaningful from all experiences and be able to then adapt and use it and moving forward.
And I'll just mention spiritual bypassing because we have had that come up in many of our episodes. So that's one of those things that I will just stay up front. We'll probably be talking quite a bit about over the next 4 weeks, where we help people see when they may be leaning into it, but then beginning to slip away into, and it's not always spiritual bypassing, it can be some other kind of thing as well that would bring you into what you might think is artificial or false resilience. So we'll talk about that a little bit too. It's like the shadow side of resilience.
Yes. And I also kind of was thinking about the spiritual applications and the practical applications. So, um, the spiritual application of resilience is, trusting in our inner wisdom and, aligning our inner and outer, uh, you know, experiences and surrendering to the flow rather than needing to control, creating space, I think. And in the practical sense, we're balancing our rest and our activity. We're lowering our risk of disease because we're regulating our nervous systems, which assist in our rest and digest. Um, and it goes a long way in increasing overall life satisfaction. So there's both applications
Mm-hmm.
to, or benefits, to building resilience in a healthy way and managing, being aware of and always leaving space for the shadow side because there's something to learn from that too. We
Yeah, the
just
ego
don't
lives there, I think,
right.
which is maybe one of the blocks that you just mentioned. But awareness, that word that you just said, and I was thinking in my mind, I can hear people saying, well, how do I know I have resilience? How do I know what it is? How do I know when I don't have it? And so those are other things I think that we'll explore over the next couple of weeks and talk a little bit more about it. But if you have any questions about resilience and how it is a sacred evolution, please put those in the comments. And that will give us a heads up as to what you're most interested in hearing. And we can bring some of that forward in,
Yeah.
during the
Yeah.
month of July and the first week of August. Yeah.
So today, I really focused on resilience through rhythm. on the harmonies, harmonizing our cycles with the natural cycles. It's one of those things that seems kind of like duh, but it's one of those foundational things that is the basic things to me are always the hardest to do because they're the things that we do every day. And they're also the things that our modern lives make most challenging to stay connected with. So I really focused on 3 just cycles that you can really kind of come back to at any time and tap into to move in a more natural way to regulate your nervous system and to find that our ability to be resilient and to move forward in hope and perseverance doesn't come from that space of like control or aggression or force, but from moving in harmony and cultivating practices that help us to adapt and renew and expand and know when to rest. So for me, the solar cycle or the seasons are obviously, the obvious go-to for tapping into cycles of growth, rest, and renewal. We get 4 big turning points throughout the year. So unless you live on the equator, you get the spring equinox and the summer solstice and the autumn equinox and the winter solstice. And if you live in the northern hemisphere with us here, we pretty much just had, gosh, it's almost a month now. That freaks me out. It was, I can't believe it's July 9th. Like, I'm freaking out about time right now.
It flew by. Suddenly it was July, and now I'm thinking it's almost the middle of July.
It is. It's insane. We're almost a month out from solstice, which was on Sunday, the June 21st. So sorry while I have a moment of panic because what is time? But so that really just hit me right now if you didn't notice. So we're a bit beyond what we collectively agree is the midpoint of the year. It's a good time to reassess our intentions so that, okay, no matter where you are, sometimes it's like, I don't know if you're like me and very ADHD brained. It's like, oh, I don't want to start tracking this because it's not the beginning or I'm not at the right place or it's not the right time. It's always the right time. It's a constant, you can jump in at any time. It's kind of like that wheel is always turning, and unless you jump in and start rolling with it, you're never going to get on the wheel. And this is one of the most fantastic practices I have found to really connect with, my own cycles of growth. So this is a good time right now for us in the Northern Hemisphere because we're kind of on the rise. We just had that summer solstice where the longest day peaked, right? The power of the sun. It's been very intense. It's a lot of yang energy. It's a lot of action-oriented, hot, right? Fiery energy right now.
It's hot.
And stifling. And you got to be careful because if you're out there, man, I have seen people, I'm like, you belong in jail right now. They're out running in the middle of nowhere, like the sun just beating down on them. And in the middle of the day, like the hottest part of the day with no shade around and there's just nothing but pavement. And I'm like, what are you doing? You're going to collapse. Like it's that kind of hot that makes me just like wonder what people are doing outside sometimes.
It's the humidity, I think, too. The other day, whenever the humidity actually dropped down out of the 90s and the 80s, it felt great, even though it was still temperature-wise in the high 80s. It was a much different day.
Oh yeah, it feels completely different. Mm-hmm. And then, in all those changes, and there's changes in pressure, if you're sensitive to those, you're probably like all out of sorts with headaches or sinus changes, things like that. But these are really powerful times to kind of track what is your cycle of beginning, of coming to fullness, of kind of, releasing and harvesting and then resting. So it's just that kind of constant cycle. And right now we're in that period of vitality and fullness of life, growing what we will reap in the harvest with the autumn equinox. It's a good time to kind of think about what are the patterns. Did you, again, if you think back to the beginning of the year, if you did the whole New Year's thing, or if you were listening to us and you set your intentions at the...
I'm laughing because we had many New Years, which we do every January.
Maybe
Well, it
you
drips
set
in
your
February too.
intentions at Diwali or the Chinese New Year
Mhm.
or the equinox, wherever you did that. This is a time where you can kind of evaluate where, where are some patterns that are showing up for you that maybe are illuminated that you maybe want to break, or is there a habit that you want to start, or is there something that you want to open up to, or something that you want to cut away? And so, just because the solstice passed, like we're still, I think, kind of in that peak, and this energy will probably build. And because it's the year of a fire horse too, which I know it wasn't something I was going to bring in fully, but I just couldn't not mention it because that energy too, it's very fiery, it's action oriented. And I think right now for us in the Western Hemisphere, especially, maybe you want to be careful about burning out, as you, are maybe affected by this, active energy. And be mindful of what you take on when you're feeling this adventurous and generous with your time and full of energy, because this will carry over into the autumn equinox where we start to level out. And then as we move into the winter time and our energy starts to wane and we go into that more yin energy of withdrawal and isolation and inactivity, remember that what you pick up now, you're carrying with you, and that can start to feel heavy if that goes. So I think that's one of the other things I love about, since tapping into the alignment of just these these four foundational turning points of the season, this solar cycle. You're looking ahead and you can really kind of know that you're naturally your energy is going to flow with this yin and yang, type of energy, and be mindful of the rest that you need. Because if you're in the southern hemisphere right now, you're on you're in that yin energy. We're needing to rest and rejuvenate. This thought came to me while I was also preparing for this podcast today. I'm like, we all really need to do our part. If you're in the southern hemisphere right now, make sure you're really resting and rejuvenating, because you need to balance us out up here who are all in the active, and then we'll return the favor when winter hits us here. There's that balance
Something
to
to
things.
that as far as an overall global energy for humanity is that there is an ebb and a flow, and it follows the magnetic forces of the earth.
Yes.
So,
And it's been disrupted by our daily lives where it's just go, go, go all the time. And it's
right.
not time to rest. And, it's, rest is a moral failing. And, depending on who you talk to.
It can be guilt driven. Yeah.
Yes. We are coming, we've been just in that hustle and grind, patriarchal, capitalistic phase for quite a while now. And I think it's thrown some things off. It just kind of came into my mind as I was just thinking about that concept of, we're always in our heads about where we are and how these cycles impact us, but there are our friends down in the South who are also, they're impacted as well. And so we kind of owe it to each other to balance each other out on that collective scale, if I can say so. And just like, for our friends in the Southern Hemisphere, you may feel if there's an excess of that yin energy, you can get that, kind of depression, or just be mindful to not overdo the rest, and fall into that kind of rotting on the couch mode. So as we change with these seasons, just, what is it? What are the ways that you keep your body active and get the rest that you need, and channel your energy when it's the high yang energy active times to really benefit you? So that was my my top pick because it's foundational, it's pivotal. You can take those chunks of time in between those points of time, the solstice and the equinoxes, and you can really assess your inner self and how you're connecting with your outer
Yeah.
goals and realm.
And I was thinking about the cycle of the day, how the sun changes the time that it rises every day. It's minuscule. I mean, we don't notice it until the points you just mentioned. It seems like
Mm.
we don't notice that maybe the sun rises a minute later or 2 minutes later, or 3 minutes later, and then it hits a tipping point and we recognize it. And then the earth starts to feel that change in the cycle. And it's no longer midsummer. We're moving into, the fall and the winter. And we know that the sun rises much later in the winter, even though we have compensated for that somewhat by daylight savings time. But the natural cycle is still the natural cycle. And there's often a dissonance, I think, at least for me.
Boo, piss on daylight savings time. Anybody
Right.
who lives with it wants it to be gone. So, yeah,
Yeah.
we know it throws
Because
us
my
off.
body doesn't want to do that.
Right.
And my pets don't want to do that. And I had horses for a long time. And we had to go through this very sequential adaptation process when we were coming to winter and then out of winter back into spring and summer to make sure that they had a regular schedule and they stayed healthy. So they are much more delicate in some ways than other animals.
Oh,
But
yeah.
for us, we have that same delicacy. We just don't pay attention to it. So that
We
awareness
don't.
that you mentioned.
Yeah. We suppress it and, in order to fit into the form of whatever the world wants that to look like. And right
Mhm.
now it's the big old hustle and grind. I will jump to my next cycle that I think, is one that if you're just coming into really questioning how you're relating, your rhythms are relating to the natural rhythms and finding resilience in rhythm is our waking and sleep cycle, day and night, action and restoration. So this is also one of the simplest, but usually one of the most difficult to do because it is one of those things that we have to do daily, and it is one of those things that so easily gets disrupted with all of the modern things, whether it's the blues, the light from your screen, or you know, I went to my nephew's baseball game this summer. Just this will tell you how old I'm getting. What is he, like 10 or something? These kids are out playing baseball. It's like the game is going. It's 9:30. I'm like, what's and these kids, I'm like, we're in the fourth inning. I did find out that it only goes to like an hour and a half, so they do time those. But I didn't leave there until 9. I'm like, what are these kids doing? They're not even getting home until 10 o'clock. That's banana cuckoo to me. I could not be a parent in today's world. They're up from dawn till dusk doing all these activities with the kids, and I honestly, my
So
body
what were
just.
you doing whenever the sun went down at night in the summer? What kinds of things do you remember doing? Because they're building memories around their
Oh,
holiday.
as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
we played until the sun went down. We sure did. We played out in the neighborhood. We summertime was a time of gathering with cousins. We did have 4th of July celebrations or summer get-togethers at the lake cabin, and
Mm-hmm.
of course we would be up all night. I was camping over solstice weekend, like I do every year. It's one of my
Mm-hmm.
rituals is to go camping over the solstice. And I was at the campground and these kids were running around and I could just hear like it was that raw laughter that I'm like, those kids are that far, like they're that close to falling off. It was that hyper crazy. They're not even probably in their own heads kind of laughter. And I'm like, as soon
Mm-hmm.
as they go inside and fall out, they're gone. They're crashed. I would kind of remember having that same kind of experience as a kid.
Did you ever catch fireflies? We called them lightning
Yes.
bugs. Where
I think absolutely. I mean, the weird thing, so this is one of those things. I think fireflies blink differently now than they did when we were kids.
I don't know.
And
Well,
you don't
that's a
think so?
research topic I might want to look at. Let me
Okay,
write
so
that
just
down.
my this is my remembrance, listeners. Tune it, check in. So when I was a kid, I mean, of course, fireflies, they were just everywhere, and the light was like a long, a fade in and fade
Mhm.
out. It was a glow. Now, what I notice is they blink fast.
Yeah, and there aren't very many of them.
Not
I'm
as
getting.
many. Oh, yeah, no, the other thing is, I mean, I lived in a rural area growing up, driving back and forth through the corn and bean fields from town to town, and you would arrive with, unfortunately, bugs and butterflies and just your
On the
windscreen
windshield.
and the grill of your car would just be covered. And that just doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, that's a big message. It's a big
Absolutely.
message.
Yeah.
And another way that we may not be living with the cycles of the earth in the most productive and humane way.
Right, definitely not living in natural connection at the highest level right now for sure. Um, so yeah, this is one of those ones that I think it's not a surprise that this is one of the areas that we can be most imbalanced. And our daytime is our time to be active and connect and create, and our night is time to sleep and repair and integrate. It's the integration that gets me, right? Because your brain is like doing the whole computer thing where it's sorting information and putting things, categorizing things, storing things where it belongs, um, putting, it's making connections that your conscious mind can't do, which is why some people, can dream and come up with a solution to their problem, find something that they've lost, whatever it may be. It's doing all those little fun little things. And it's, again, it's restoration is so much a part of productivity, which I think is so overlooked in today's and our culture. It's like you literally need, it's all about productivity, but you literally need rest to be productive. It's just how the brain function and works. So, just ways to connect is just paying attention to patterns. And two, keep in mind, everybody's dosha is different. Everybody's chart is different. So your rhythms might be different than someone else's. But when when I tune into this cycle, if I find myself getting off one, I try to cut back or cut out caffeine to tap back into what is my real, waking and sleeping rhythm without being impacted by caffeine or other stimulants or, anything that's going to disrupt my natural rhythm. Getting natural light. I'm not a get up and get outside and go person, but I do like to get up and open my, for that might, for you, maybe that's just drawing your curtains. It doesn't have to be going out and running 5 miles, but getting that natural light, I think, is part of regulating your circadian rhythm. And maintaining consistency with your schedule, which I think is one of those, again, it's one of those things that we have the most difficulty with. But also optimizing your environment can also be so helpful in getting in tune with this natural cycle. Making my bedroom a haven of comfort and, all the things, whether for you, if it's you like it cold, I put my heated mattress pad on in the winter so I can actually look forward to going, snuggling down into bed. Whatever makes that comfortable and whatever makes your morning routine maximize that so that you can tap into, like, I think that, ability to make it as consistent as possible, because I think consistency is one of the things that's hardest
You know, it's interesting you
to keep
mentioned the
up with.
morning routine because that's so important, I think, to be able to get up and bring the body into the awake rhythm for the day without popping up and rushing about. And there are a few mornings when I find myself asking myself the question, why are you running around? Why are you rushing around? What's so critical that needs to be done 3 minutes faster? And so I'm always trying to talk myself down, slow down, just sit for a minute. You know, enjoy the coffee, enjoy the tea. Some mornings it's coffee, some mornings it's tea. And enjoy the dogs and do what you said, which I love. And especially in the summer, I open the blinds and try to get out on the deck for at least the beginning of sunrise. And so
Right.
that slows me down. It also makes me rush around later, maybe, but I have those moments where I procrastinate, right, by slowing down. But those cycles you're talking about, I think, are so critical, and they're just glimpses and microcosms of ways that we build resilience so that we feel better as we move into our day. When we come up to challenges, when we may need to move a little quicker, we have the energy and the agency to be able to do that. So thank you for bringing those forward, because I think a lot of times we take things for granted and people don't always hear these
And
simple ways to live their lives.
it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's like duh, but also it's one of those things where when you get out of that routine or you get into something unhealthy, it usually happens so gradually, or, it's something that just slips and we don't realize how impacted we are by it until we really reassess and go, wow, I'm really out of alignment here. That
Right. Yeah.
let me just really, and that's why, again, tuning into these cycles and these seasons, this is a time, summer solstice is a time to kind of reassess and adjust for this season. And again, check in with yourself at equinox as your energy starts to taper off or level out. Reassess then. What are the things you're doing in life? What is your space like? What are the practices that you're feeling called to at that time? What are the foods that feel nourishing to your
So
body at
true.
that time? What
Mhm.
kind of sleep do you need? Again, that's the natural circadian rhythm that you can tap into. And of course, the last one that I just wanted to touch on and tuning into the cycles is, of course, the moon cycle, because so many people do that and it's a little bit cliche, but again, another one of those rhythms that when I really started tuning into it, it's just changed the trajectory of my life. I mean, it's your
Mhm.
subconscious. The sun is it's how we thrive, and it's our expression of ourselves and our our energy. But our moon is the hidden, mysterious side of light, our unconscious, that hidden knowledge. So really tapping into those cycles as well, and just if it's just the new moon and the full moon, um, tapping into that high tide with the new moon of flow, renewal, fullness, expansion, and with the full moon, a low tide, an ebbing, a letting go of things, creating space, revealing things that maybe were hidden that are now, revealed, that you can work forward or, take into consideration working forward. Um, and I tend to use water ritual as a Pisces moon with especially full moons, because I really, I like to get my space set up so comfortable like a spa and take a bath and really just let go, watch all of the things that I want to let go just drain down, just soak in a mineral or, essential oil bath. And as I let go of everything in that ritual, just really clearing space. The bath ritual is something that I tap into on a
Mhm.
regular basis as part of the
Mhm.
moon cycle. So expansion and return. These are those simple, those natural rhythms that we can tap into at any time to bring ourselves into greater alignment and peace. Remember to exhale. Remember that the inhale will come. And
Yeah, it's inevitable.
right, yeah, we don't have to work so hard at it all the time.
Hmm.
And just so you know, one of the questions is what allows us to remain in balance as we navigate the frequencies of responsibility, concern, reconciliation, synthesis, and compassion. Because we're going through some really tenuous times right now. And these, you know, it's easy to get pulled away from our practices or out of alignment with our natural cycles, and it throws off our bodies and our minds and our emotional state, our moods. So resilience through rhythm.
Hmm.
These are just a few ways that you can tap in, and just remember that after every night comes the sun, after every winter comes the spring, after every exhale comes the inhale. And as long as there's breath in the body, there's reason for being. So may you meet each day with presence and each challenge with trust and each new beginning with an open heart. And that is all I have on moving in rhythm.
Such an important thing to consider and stay aware of. I think you're going to probably hear us talk about that word a lot, because becoming aware of, like you said, getting derailed, being in alignment, being out of alignment, because our schedules are demanding and it requires us to take our physical body somewhere and do something. And it may not be in alignment with the natural cycle of the time. And so we start to feel that over time. Just like I mentioned with the sunrise, 1 or 2 minutes difference may not be such a big deal, and then all of a sudden we realize the sun's rising 20 to 30 minutes later, and it catches our attention. And resilience is a little bit like that. We use it, we harvest it, we hold it, we spend it, and we don't have an accounting method other than becoming aware of when we balance and when we tip the balance. So what you brought forward about staying in harmony with the natural cycles is one way to really help us. We're human, we're part of Earth. We're here. We're of the Earth. So we're going to be, when we're of the Earth, moving like the Earth moves in the different seasons and the different day parts, sun and moon. So we're not separate.
And one of my other favorite practices for staying in tune with the cycles is tuning into yoga nidra, which I love. You are one of my favorite practitioners that I tap into on YouTube all the time, and those are available on your Imbalance channel, right? You have
Oh,
the yoga nidras.
oh yes,
You've got
yeah.
some recorded there. We should drop a link in there for folks to listen to.
Hmm.
Um, and so that's one of my, and visualization, just guided visualization. I remember you have, if I yeah, I don't know if you still have it on your channel, but a beautiful walk through a moon garden in the yoga nidra, and
Yeah.
those are some of
I
my
haven't
other.
taken anything off. They're all there. I've reorganized it a little bit, so you may find there are playlists, and so you might be a little bit, if you go out frequently, a little lost for a moment. But hopefully, the way I chose to put them into playlists will make it easier over time for people to find things. Yeah.
And I really like Yoga Nidra for moon, connecting with the moon cycles as well, because it gets you into that subconscious state, that state of non-sleep, deep rest, where your thinking mind is turned off, and I think it's just very supportive of allowing the moon energy to do its work. So that's another favorite practice, along with my
Thank
water
you.
rituals.
Yeah.
So, and folks
Well,
can
that's
always
very
do.
interesting because with your sun being in Pisces and my moon being in Virgo across the way, of course, I think your moon might be in Pisces too.
My moon is
So,
in
yeah,
Pisces as well.
so we have that, and I would have to say that I'm much more aligned with the moons, which, if anybody knows about my morning moon briefs, uh, you'll know that the cycles you're talking about do provide real energies for us every single day. Sometimes they're a little more dissonant, sometimes they're actually a little more aggressive, and other times they're peaceful, calm, joyous, and the moon goes through moods. I mean, we talk about the moon being moody, and that's where we get that. So the moon is the mind and our emotions.
And there's so much research based evidence to support the physical benefits of these practices of aligning with these cycles. So that UCLA Health is tapped into for some of those. Like, it improves tapping into your circadian rhythm, improves sleep and digestion, reduces long-term risks of metabolic disorders and mood disturbances, and just 20 to 30 minutes in a natural environment significantly drops our stress hormone and reduces our nervous system arousal. So it activates your parasympathetic nervous system, allows your body to go into rest and digest. And that's not long, I mean, it's so, it doesn't take, sometimes it can feel like, I think when stress and pressure and the chaos and the confusion, or we can feel so disoriented and ungrounded, and it can feel like we have to do something big and overwhelming to get to that place of peace again. And literally it can be just 20 minutes outside. I do it, a lot of times I will be in a maybe, super heightened state just after work, and feeling the pressure of all the things I have to do, and so overwhelmed. And I don't even know if I want to feel better, because I want, it's like you want to be all in a kerfuffle about it. And one of my obligations is to walk Darcy, my cat. She gets her outside time because that's something that she deserves as the little creature who just loves her outdoor time. So that's something I commit to. And after 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it may be, I'm in a completely different state. So I think it's just, again, when we're in that heightened state, it can feel like nothing's going to work, so we don't try anything, and we just kind of stay in that stuck mode. And just remember, it's something as simple as, stepping outside for 20 minutes, taking that extra couple of sips of coffee outside in the morning before you get in your car and go to work, or get online to start your job, or whatever it may be, can really keep you in that flow. No.
So thank you, Ravi, for bringing this forward, and all the simple reminders. Nothing costs
Nothing.
any money.
Well, and it's nothing mind blowing, or it's just the gentle reminder that it's the little things that we do, the daily habits, that really make a big difference. And it's those, it's like you said, it's that incremental building up of resilience, and then we find that we're getting through the day better, or this happens and it's not disrupting our peace so much. We can move about in the world and kind of have that protection from our aura, so that we're not bombarded by everybody else's energies when we're doing, we have to, we're out in the world doing whatever it is that we have to do. The benefits are real. We just kind of have to remember to do those little things every day to experience them.
Yeah, and if you think of it, please, everyone, send us a comment or an email and let us know, especially first responders and other people that have very intense crisis type professions. This is for you as well. Now, we could talk about many different professions, and they all have their hot buttons and their resilience banks that get emptied every once in a while. But let us know, what is it that you might do after a very intensive circumstance that may be part of your job that brings you back into a state of resilience where you feel like, okay, I'm ready, I'm capable, I can do this again.
And
And
if there's, if you're in that season of life where things have kind of slipped away, what is one small change that you could make to bring you back into that flow? What is something, that we could let go of to create more space, whatever that may be for you? Now is a good time to assess and think of what, you have the energy for, what you have capacity for, and as you think ahead, how that may change and ebb and flow with the seasons.
what you
So,
may do, and maybe a comment could change somebody else's life.
right.
So
Yeah,
it's a good time to
absolutely.
share.
Well, thank you for being here, and we hope you'll join us for the next three episodes that will complete this four-part series. I think we'll be talking about some other topics in relation to resilience and how it's a part of our sacred evolution, keeps us in that high vibration so that we can continue to evolve to our highest selves, regardless of what's going on in the world around us, because it's
Yeah.
pretty heavy stuff out there sometimes.
So
So,
like and share.
Satnam.
Namaste.